Okay, now we're going to open it up to questions for both of them. What I'd like you to do is, I don't think we have microphones to go out, so if you could speak loudly, that would be helpful. Or, and then maybe a neighbor that maybe, if you're a silent voiced, maybe a neighbor that speaks louder could repeat the question or whatever. But what I'd like you to do is preface the question by saying this question is directed at Dr. Bull or Dr. Van Groeningen, and or to both. And then go ahead and ask your question, and then they will answer that. Okay.
I've got one. I'm William Chamberlain. This is for Dr. Van Groeningen. I can't speak for all the work that all the labs have done because I wasn't there. But I will defend Saleh Nasser on his behalf on the one thing that I really worked with him closely on. I had 19 blood specimens sent to him, blinded, along with 8 controls. The results that I got back were that none of the controls were culture positive, but 9 of the 19 were culture positive. He could not possibly have faked that or known. Those were blinded. And in order to clarify it a little bit more before I came here, I called him up. What he does is he puts the sample, he spins it down, he isolates the peripheral blood mononuclear cells devoid of any hemoglobin, he puts it into the MGIP system that's specific for para. He then cultures it for 6 weeks. He looks at it by PCR. He takes the PCR positive and then plates it out. And those are positive. Some of those go on and become positive by standard microbiology, looking at it with acid fast. That's what I know for sure. So when his techniques are being challenged, I challenge the challenger. Thank you.
Well, then let him publish the data. I understand that there are discrepancies. Let him and Michelle Truxas publish the data. Show the discrepancies that 2 laboratories had when the samples were split. I think all of us can agree that if you have a discrepancy like this, let's split the samples. The samples were split. $1 million was spent on this project. Why doesn't he publish the data?
I can't speak for the other laboratory. I do know that there was trouble with that laboratory, and the person running it changed from Maryland and moved her laboratory out to Colorado. I don't know. But I do know this, that a similar, well, it's either out there now on the internet. I read the data. It's been published, where laboratories from the University of Wisconsin, University of Central Florida, and the Centers for Disease Control have just come out with a paper, and they have grown MAP from the bloodstream. It's there. It is there.
I'll be happy to see those papers if there's some that I haven't yet read.
And one more.
But I also want him to publish the information on the P35 and P36 serology that was done with Clancy. That's another place where he refuses to have it published. Why is that? Come on, let's be open.
It's hard to get this published. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. I would also like to say.
Okay, actually, we're gonna have to move on and take other questions. But thanks, William. Yes, in the back.
Hi, my question is for Dr. Bull. I am a Crohn's patient. I'm being treated for MAP with a triple antibiotic therapy. I'm wondering if there's any ideas at this time about length of treatment and also temperatures that MAP is filled at in terms of cooking dairy.
Well, I'm actually not a clinician, so I'm not the person to ask for that. But I would say that there certainly are a lot of new antimicrobacterial therapies that are coming along. I would say that you need to talk to a clinician to actually decide on that. But we certainly need to consider that the organism itself is in fact is a mycobacterium. Now, are we going to give an antibacterial that is actually going to kill the mycobacterium that is, as it's growing? Or are we going to look for an antimicrobacterial that is actually going to kill it without it growing? And I think that's the important point. The important point is, if you're going to actually use decent microbacterial therapy, you actually need to have an antibiotic that is actually looking for a non-dividing cell. So I think sometimes it might not be the length of the therapy that you should be concerned about, but also exactly what therapy we're using. And I'm not quite sure I understood the last part of yours.
At what temperatures can MAP be killed in terms of like heating, milk, or baking?
Okay, so this is a really difficult question. Okay, it's really, really difficult. Depends on lots of things. It depends how much MAP you've got. Depends whether the MAP is clumping. It depends whether the MAP comes from a tissue. It depends how long the MAP has been introduced into that tissue. It depends exactly what phenotype it's at. It's certainly very, very resistant. Okay, I was in a meeting recently last month showing that it survives pasteurization, it survives vast amounts of heat temperature. So I think the answer is we just really, really don't know. And it depends on the inoculum size, and it also depends on what stage you're in. But it's certainly very high, and it's certainly a very, very, one of the most resistant organisms to heat that we actually know of. So I'm afraid I really don't know the answer exactly. Sorry.